Now a lens that you might not have heard of before, the ultra-wide lens. Ultra-wide lenses are the most difficult lenses to use as well. Ultra-wide lenses are not for getting it all in. Ultra-wide lenses are for getting yourself and therefore the viewer right smack into the middle of something. If you can't or won't get close, leave the ultra-wide at home. Ultra-wides rub the viewer's nose in your subject. Properly used, ultra-wides grab your viewer and yank him or her into the middle of your situation. Get right up to the front door. Move yourself right to the edge of the pool. Ultra-wide lenses are for getting close and bringing the viewer into the photo, not for fitting the subject into the photo. Most people use ultra-wides too sheepishly and get crummy results with tiny subjects dwarfed in the middle of an open frame. When I use my 14mm, I constantly have to force myself to get closer and pay rapt attention to the sides of my viewfinder, which are too often blank or loaded with junk. Ultrawides require you to get very close and personal to anything you are shooting. Even a fraction of an inch or centimeter will make a huge difference in your composition, so you need to be very deliberate with your movement. If you use them properly, you'll be rewarded with dynamic images. I've discovered that regardless of how many lenses I use and regardless of however many photos I make of homes, the ones I ultimately love are the ones that I take with the widest lens I bought. My 17 to 35mm zoom always seems to be shot at 17mm. My 16 to 35mm always at 16mm, and my 14 to 24mm always seems to be shot at 14mm stops. Your taste will vary, but this is how I see the world. So how wide is wide? All this becomes more important as your ultra-wide gets wider. For 24mm lenses, you can ignore all this. For 20mm lenses, you ought to pay at least a little bit of attention. And for 17mm lenses, you'll need most of this. And with 14mm lenses, you'll need to know all of this. Otherwise, the only good photos you'll probably get will be from dumb luck. Everything here applies to all these lenses. However, normal and telephoto lenses don't exhibit the crazy properties I'll be describing here. The wider you get, the crazier things become and the more attentive you need to be. 28mm and 24mm lenses are still pretty normal as wide-angle lenses go. If 24mm is your widest lens, you won't need to know much of what we'll discuss here. When you get to 20mm lenses, things start getting a little weird. At 18mm and 17mm lenses, well, things get real weird. And by 15, 14, and 13mm lenses, things are totally out of control. This is why some of us love the ultra-wide lenses. However, you have to understand and be able to make productive use of the weirdness of ultra-wide lenses. You have to shoot full frame or FX to get the equivalent of 14mm. There are no lenses that wide for the little formats. Well, how about distortion? Ultra-wides are not fisheye lenses. Fisheyes distort and curve everything. Ultra-wides keep straight lines straight. Ultra-wides don't distort technically, but they distort artistically. This is why we use them. Ultra-wides exaggerate the relationship between near and far. Ultra-wides stretch out objects on the sides and the corners. Ultra-wides exaggerate any slight misalignment of your subject and camera. They do all this while keeping straight lines straight. This is why we love them. We exploit these distortions to our advantage. Get close. The hardest part with ultrawides is getting close enough. You can never get too close. You have to push yourself to get and stay close enough. Ultrawides are for getting yourself and therefore the viewer right smack into the middle of something. And ultrawides don't distort technically, but they distort artistically. They exaggerate the relationship of near and far.